Hello, Flosstube. Anna Forrest here, coming to you on the 21st of November for the latest update in what's going on in my stitching world, which can be summarized as not what I intended, but hey, that's what happens. First things first, I just wanted to give a massive thank you and shout out to Belinda, Aussie Stitcher. She mentioned me on her latest, at least the latest when this was filmed, video. And so welcome to all of you who are joining me based on her recommendation. I appreciate the fact that you come and check me out and see what I'm working on. I hope you like what you see. I hope you'll hang around. And welcome to anybody who's, just repeat, come back from before too. Yes, so when Belinda mentioned me on her video, I had to have a little bit of a laugh because my username causes a bit of confusion because it's purely a made-up word, and so nobody knows how to pronounce it. That myranalis, basically years ago when I used to do Dungeons and Dragons and the online form of that, I was sitting around in university when I should have been paying attention to my lecturer, and instead I was thinking about what I should name an elf character. So I have a cousin, Miranda, and my family is rife with names where we've taken a name that's traditionally spelled with an I and spell it with a Y. So Myr from Miranda with a Y, and then Anna should be self-explanatory enough because that's me. Just took an extra N out of it so it wasn't quite so obvious. And Liz, just being a generic elven sounding ending. And so that day in class, the name Myranalis, my elf, was born. And it's funny because that was about, sort of the first year of college. I was setting up my own email account and stuff. Hotmail, from all around the same time. So, when you're sitting there thinking about, oh, what username am I going to use? This myranalis is the first thing that pops into my head. So I am known everywhere, YouTube, email, all the logins for the various scrapbooking websites I was on for years. It's all under the name myranalis. And there was some point where I thought, well, this is a bit silly that I've got this college creation following me around still 20 plus years later. And so I signed up to a site and I thought, no, I'll use my real name. I'll use Anna Forrest as user ID, which is nice and grown up and, all those good things. I probably couldn't get into the website because I couldn't remember what my username is, and I had to get the admin to reset it all, and I thought, nah, bugger it. I'm forever going to be Myranalis at this point. So that is what it is, how it's said, and how it came to be. Yeah, so beyond that, guess it's just a bit of a general update. So I think last time I videoed, we were just right before Halloween. So we had our Halloween party, had lots of visitors. That was great. Now we're what, 2-3 days out from Thanksgiving. Thanksgiving's tomorrow. Ooh. So we are going down to the beach with all the other Yanks in town to do Thanksgiving. So that'll be good. And yeah, I took the kids away for a weekend, basically down south a couple hours, because we went to a place called Airlie Beach, which is full of sunshine and islands and sailing and that sort of thing, because, the tropics have a shortage of sunshine and beaches and sailing, but, never mind. Doesn't have to be logical. So we went for a weekend at a different beach. And that was all great. The kids had a great time. But while we were there, we decided we'd stop and do one of these escape room things. And I don't know how many of you have done these escape room things, but I went in there a bit nervous because, you know, it's me plus 4 kids I'm dragging along. And I was a bit worried about, you know, whether it'd be too hard. Like, the youngest is 10. And so I wasn't sure if it'd kind of go over his head or what had happened. It turned out it was great fun. It was such a good family activity. If you have one in your area and you're debating, you know, highly recommend taking even the younger kids along. They had such a great time. And honestly, I think taking a young one is a great tactic because they're nosy and they will dig around and find the random little key they've hidden in the bottom of the spoon jar because they're a kid and they're nosy. And it didn't, I looked at that same thing with the spoons in it and thought, nope, nothing here. Put it back on the shelf. Clearly, I didn't look with the 10-year-old's eyes. Anyway, so great fun. Highly recommend it for anybody looking for a family activity. I don't know that I'd go with really young kids, but certainly 10 years old was well and truly old enough. We did have one point where half the group was separated into a second room. It was one of those scenarios where you had to flip 2 different switches in 2 different rooms at the same time, and when you did that, the door between you locked. So whoever was in that second room could have been alone and without a flashlight, and I think some little kids might have been a bit more spooked by that than others. Fortunately, it was a couple of the older kids. 2 of them got stuck in together, so A, they had each other, B, they had the flashlight, and they're not my ones that were prone to panic anyway. So, but I could just see where that might go pear-shaped if the wrong kids were separated in that kind of fashion unexpectedly. So who have I been watching lately? Mostly not a whole lot because things have been pretty chaos with all the other stuff going on. I've watched several of Teresa Little Stitcher's videos lately. I was just watching one on beading this morning because at some point I'm going to have to start beading the chatelaine, and so at the moment, if you've got a tutorial on how you're doing your beading, I've probably been watching it. So with that, let's quick jump into the projects I've got. I think when I last talked to you, I had intended to basically do nothing except my chatelaine because that's what I was obsessed with. But I have been sidetracked a bit in that I agreed to participate in a Secret Santa exchange with a group of quilters. And so I thought it was a handmade or $20 sort of limit. And I thought, well, you know, $20, that's no fun at all. Handmade's much better. So I started and almost finished stitching this. So it's just a pattern I got off Etsy. I think I've got a bit of light blue here to go in that bit and some more color in that part of the ribbon, and then of course to fill in that. And then it should be done. Hold please. Okay, sorry about that. Where were we? So yeah, that's will be my Secret Santa. And then I thought I will finish it. I had intended to pick something a bit smaller, so it didn't take as much time, but this was cute, and I thought the sewing was appropriate. They're all quilters. And I thought I'd finish it as a pillow. I did one pillow a couple of months ago. This. And I'll use the same backing fabric. My eldest picked that backing fabric. I thought it was quite a nice choice, actually. I like the dark glittery background. But I thought I'd use the scraps from that to do the back of this sewing pillow as well. For anybody who's interested, that one was a Janelin kit. I'll try and remember to link it below. I think it was just generic, something like seashell wreath or something. I quite like it. I expect this will go out and live in my guest bedroom in the she shed at some point. At the moment it lives up the closet where no greasy hands will touch it because yeah, I don't want greasy hands all over this. So it'll grow out in the guest bedroom where bugger all people are permitted except for guests. Yeah, I really like the way it came out. If anybody's looking at doing it, this corner, I believe, there's several errors in the pattern. They're quite obvious. The letters don't quite line up as they're meant to and whatnot. So but just keep an eye out. And I just fudged them, and I think I had to add an extra bit of letter on one line, whatever, just to make it all line up nice and even. But I mean, it's fairly straightforward. So I will do a pillow again with the same backing fabric for this sewing one. I used the tutorial, I think it was Christine Stitch All the Things had done a tutorial. I'll try and look that up as well and link it. Super easy to follow. Like the tutorial gave directions if you wanted like a trim and stuff around your pillow too. And I won't worry about trim or anything with this, and clearly I didn't with the other one. Yeah, so that's almost done, but a slight diversion from the chatelaine. The other diversion we've had from the chatelaine is this project for my niece. So I did all the stitching on the unicorn itself and the name at the bottom, which names have been withheld to protect the innocent. The stars and stuff around the outside, there's two. There's these cotton ones, and then there's stars done with the light effects, metallics. All of those were done by my middle daughter. She wanted to have a go at helping, and it didn't even occur to me that this is stitched on linen, because I always stitch on linen. So she asked if she could do the stars, and I said, yep, no worries. And I walked out the door one day and I said, can you just do those stars before I get home? No instruction, no nothing, figuring she had it all sorted out. And when I got home, she's like, Mom, I didn't know how to count it. So we had to have, I don't know what the racket's going on out there. We had to have a lesson in stitching on linen, but she did really well. She, like I said, she did all of those cotton ones, and then she did the light effects as well. And there was sidetracked again. So daughter stitching those stars. I thought she did a really nice job. I totally lose my train of thought. This is just mounted on foam core. You can see I put brass pins all the way up the side, you know, across the top to hold it in place, and then on the back I just used your average stapler to hold the extra fabric down. Very straightforward. The intention is for this to get mounted on here. Whoop. So for that to get mounted on there, and then I will go through and you know, use ribbons or something to pretty it up, and a bit of flowers. All my old scrapbooking supplies will get some use there. And then the whole thing can be put on an easel and displayed. So where it's going to live, it won't have quite the humidity problems that we have here. So I'm not as stressed about things rusting as they would be if it stayed here. But yeah, so there's that. That one's got to get finished before we get on an airplane. in a couple of weeks. So time's clicking with that one. So that leaves the chatelaine, which is what I thought I was going to be working on this week. So you can see I'm starting to make some corners in the progress in the corners. This one is basically finished as far as I'm trying to get it at the moment. The bottom ones have a fair bit of work to get to that stage yet. I'm still waiting on the additional threads, specialty threads to come. At this point, I'm thinking they are not going to get here before we go back to the States. So it is what it is. I will basically keep working my way out, going around those, excuse me, going around the threads I don't have, and have to come back to them once we're back, hopefully. By the time we get back from the States, they might be here. Because the chatelaine project is quite a bit bigger than all my other ones, my project bags really haven't been big enough. And so I thought what I ought to do is have a play, make some new project bags. So I went to Spotlight and I grabbed some fabric. So the chatelaine I'm doing is the Japanese moss garden, inspired by the fact that my daughter is taking Japanese and has just been to Japan this year and is really kind of Japan obsessed at the moment, and so it seemed a good enough excuse to do that one. So she tells me all these patterns in here are very common patterns you see in kimonos. Honestly, I wouldn't have a clue, but she tells me they are. And then we got the little cherry blossoms. So that's why I picked this particular fabric. The fabric for the top will be that one. Yeah, which you can't, there is a pattern. There's a very subtle version of this, but it's just coming across white on the camera. But it's basically white with those little crests in it that you can see. So that'll be the bottom, the white will be the top. It'll be interesting to see how keeping the white clean goes, but it is what it is. And then for the lining, I found this one, which I fully acknowledge style-wise probably doesn't go with the other two, but color-wise I thought it was pretty close. And the reality is, it's a lining. I like the fabric. I'm going with it. So that is the lining, the batik. Like I said, I just love that fabric. That is so cool. So, but yeah, style-wise, maybe not so much. But, you know, it's all good. It's on the inside. I'm the only one that's going to see it. Oh, good. So, one of these days, I have to actually sew that project. Oh, you know, I didn't bring the other things. Hold, please. Promise. Like last time, really. Okay, so these are the project bags I use for most of my projects. And honestly, there's nothing wrong with it. It's just a plastic thing from the stationery store. The only thing is with the chatelaine, it's just, I find it's busting at the seams to try and fit everything in it. But what I wanted to say was that I have been storing the specialty threads like this. So basically just a bag on a ring, got the card for whatever color it was in there. So there's some dinky dyes where they come on a nice spool. I might fit 2 of them in a bag. Just, oh, that one doesn't have 2. I thought that was meant, yeah. Okay, so some of them have 2 in them. And I mean, it works okay. But I don't like this big gobby of just bags that won't sit straight, and it's just, yeah. I'm used to having everything on bobbins, and this baggy thing doesn't work for me. So I don't know how else to store them. And so if anybody has any brilliant ideas for how else to store them, I'm a bit concerned about putting them on bobbins, the silks and stuff. Like that would be the easiest answer, would just be to bobbinate them all and put them in a bobbin box. But I'm just a bit worried that they may not handle the abuse of being on a bobbin. I don't know. I know I've said before, these is the first time I've used some of these really fancy flosses and stuff, and I love them, you know, and I want to take care of them and have a nice project out of it. But I'm just not familiar with how much abuse I can give them and expect them to stand up to it. The other thing I want to mention for anybody who isn't aware, Friday, being Black Friday, Chatelaine is having a 20% off. So if you're having your eye on any patterns, you might want to go check it out. Personally, I am terribly conflicted because I have my eye on patterns, yes, but I tend to prefer paper patterns. I'm debating it with that Japanese moss garden. There's a few spots that I'm looking at the paper pattern and thinking it's just not super clear whether I'm meant to do a long stitch here versus a back stitch here, you know, that sort of thing. I'm trying to embrace the whole, the pattern is not gospel, just do what I like, but I struggle with that. So anyway, so I'd kind of thought maybe I should buy a PDF pattern, see whether I like it any better or any worse. I tend to, first thing I want to do is print off all my patterns and stick them in the binder book, and you know, then all the pages are nice behind things and I can flick through, and I find that a really convenient way to work. I don't want to know about this having to find a PDF and mark off stitches, and I don't mark on my patterns anyway, but I like to get away from the computer, and if I got to be carting the PDF with the iPad with the PDF pattern on it, it's not getting away from the computer. It's just as easy to play Facebook. So basically that comes down to, I'm not sure whether future Chatelaines I want to buy paper versus I want to buy PDF. But if you're a PDF person, go to the Chatelaine website. I think it's only for like 24 hours, so probably Black Friday proper. Go and check it out, stock up, because yeah, there's heaps of them I'd love to do. If I only had that much time. With that, I suppose I'd probably better wrap it up. I will give you guys fair warning. This probably will be my last video until the end of summer. Life is just going to be chaos. I have the year 11 finishes school, I think tomorrow's her last day. The year 10 finishes the week after that, and then the year 6 and 8 are a week or so behind that. So between that and the fact that we're off to the States and, you know, summer holidays, it's going to be crazy. So don't expect to see anything from me until probably February, to be honest. But on the upside, I should have heaps of progress to report by then. You know, my Chatelaine will be amazing. So I will talk to you all then. Have a good stitchy time and lots of stitchy progress, and talk to you another day.